Hello everyone, it's Dio from Fair Gaming, bringing you another World of Warcraft video. Today we are bringing you another weekly video for the Mythic Plus Dungeon series that we have been doing, so we're going to cover all the affixes today. So this week we luck out and it is a fortified week, of course, so that is non-boss enemies have 20% more health and inflict up to 30% increased damage. And it is Sanguine, so Sanguine is when non-boss enemies die, they drop a pool of Sanguine on the ground. And so this pool, mobs that are in it, including bosses, they will heal for 5% of their maximum health every 1 second, and a player that is standing in it is going to take 15% damage every 1 second. So basically, you don't want to have mobs in it, and you yourself do not want to be in it. And then the other affix that we get when for level 7 plus is Necrotic. So all enemy melee attacks apply a stacking debuff that basically impacts healing. And the more stacks you get, the less healing you're able to receive. Where at 30 stacks, you pretty much become unhealable. So this is a tank mechanic. So basically when they get lots of stacks, they're going to have to start kiting. And so those are the three affixes we have for this week, because of course the fourth one, as always, is the Tormentors, or the Lieutenants, for when you're above key level 10, and that hasn't changed and is always the same. So let's jump into it and see what the tanks have to do. So for tanks, basically what you want to do with Sanguine is you want to keep on the move, but when the mobs get low, so around 20% on mobs, you want to start kiting them and just moving backwards. So as they die, you're dragging the mobs out of the Sanguine to make them heal as low as possible. You don't want to stun any mobs while they are that low, because if they get stunned in the Sanguine, by the time the stun is over, they're going to heal back for about 20% of their max health. That's assuming it's a 4-second stun and they're getting the 5% per second. So you don't want to do that. You just want to kite. And then for Necrotic, you got to watch your stacks, because around 30 stacks, you become unhealable. So then you really have to kite. So you just got to run away at that point, unless you have complete damage mitigation. So what comes to mind there is the Druids. If they're running the Thrash Legendary, they can have that big shield. But anyways, so basically there's a lot of kiting this week. You got to keep on the move, watch your stacks, keep your CDs up as appropriate, and do not stun mobs into the Sanguine. The best strategy is, like I was saying, when they get around 20%, just start moving backwards. If you really need to, because one of the front ones die and you got mobs that are kind of slowly walking through, just take off running and they'll chase after you much quicker to get them out of the Sanguine. And try your best to keep them out. If you got knockback capabilities, like I think a Guardian Druid can have Typhoon, you can use that to knock them out of the Sanguine if they happen to get stunned or stuck in it. Otherwise, you just got to kite and watch them and keep them out of that. That'll be your best bet. Healers, basically, so your job is going to be a little bit complicated this week. So if you have a knockback and you see your DPS or tank has accidentally stunned any of the trash into Sanguine, use the knockback to try to push them out. For Necrotic, basically you need to also keep in mind what your tank stacks are at, because when they get high, of course, they're going to become unhealable. So you don't want to use an unnecessary CD that isn't going to do anything, because if they're at the 30 stacks, then they're unhealable. You don't want to pop big CDs that, for max healing when they actually can't get any healing. So you just got to be mindful of that. So you may want to pop those a little bit in advance. Maybe when they're at 15 stacks or something, they're still going to have half the healing effectiveness, but at least you'll be able to kind of pump out a bunch of healing before they enter that unhealing stage. So just keep that in mind. And then of course, if you have any slows that could help when the tanks are kiting, do what you can to help slow the mobs for them until they drop the stacks. And of course, help if you got knockbacks, knock the trash out of any Sanguine that is on the ground. And of course, you yourself don't stand in the Sanguine. Unnecessary damage, no need to take it. DPS. So, in bold letters I have, do not stun mobs in Sanguine. You will not like yourself, your teammates may not like you. Doing that is not recommended, obviously, because the mob will heal up, and because it's fortified, they have increased health anyways, so you're just delaying yourself and hurting yourselves by doing it. And then do your best to not stand in Sanguine. It does hurt. Like I said, it's about 15% of your max health per 1 second, as well as you'll be putting unnecessary strain on your healer, who is already going to have a hard time, or some have to spend more time focusing the tank this week due to the necrotic stacks. So just be mindful of that. Also keep in mind that as the trash gets low, you're going to have to start kiting. So just keep that in mind, that you'll have to chase after your tank. And if you're a caster, just position yourself accordingly, just to make sure that as the tank is kiting, you're going to stay in range, or that he's not going to kite them past you and you might get clipped with like a deadly thrust, like kind of those AoE type spells. For Necrotic, you shouldn't get too many stacks of these, obviously, unless you're getting punched by trash, which shouldn't happen. So just be mindful of your stacks. It shouldn't really be a big deal, but your job here is just minimize the damage that you're going to take. So same as always, as your healer is going to have to focus a little bit more on the tank this week than they do in other weeks. So the only tip I have is if a mob is below 20%, do not stun them, because it's likely it's going to die, and then it'll be other mobs who are going to be stuck in the Sanguine, so just be mindful of that. And also when your tank starts to kite, if you have any slows, use that. Don't use the stun, because as they're kiting, things might die, and then you might accidentally stun a higher health one into a Sanguine that drops. So do what you can to help your tank this week and your healer. Really, when they start the kiting, if you have things to really slow them down, do what you can to just help them reset those stacks. Plate wearers, if you have a taunt, sometimes it might be worthwhile to, as they're running away, if they still have the stacks and it hasn't dropped and a mob's close, it might be, if you have the space, to do a quick taunt and go the other way. Just by that extra couple seconds, your tank should taunt it back and you'd be good to go in that regard. All in all, it is going to be a little bit more of a challenging week this week, because of course your tank is going to have some issues, so there'll be a lot more kiting. So the bigger pulls may not be happening because the stacks will get too high. Druid tanks are most likely going to be very popular this week, just because they have those big shields that they can throw up every 3 minutes with Incarnate Thrash. And then, of course, DHs also have great kiting capabilities to reset the stack. So it's going to be an interesting week this week. I don't think it's going to be a strong push week, just because of the Sanguine, which by itself isn't too bad, but just with the Necrotic and the stacks on the tank and the healing, it is just going to prevent doing those bigger pulls. And on a Fortified week where things have a lot more health, it's just going to cost a little bit extra time. So for me personally, this week is just going to be, I'll try to do a couple pushes, but I think it's just going to be a maintain week. If I can hopefully get a couple extra dungeons out, I'll try for it, but it's going to be a tough week, like I was saying. So as always, we appreciate any feedback that you guys have. If there's any information that you guys would like included in these videos, please let us know. We enjoy bringing these to you, like making them. And as always, we appreciate any likes and subscribes, and of course, as always, you can find us on Twitch. Come hang out with us there, and if you need help running any keys or just want to chat, come in there. We're happy to chat with you guys and to build this community. So thank you all, and have a good one.